Have you ever wondered, who am I? Are you still struggling to fit into life, to find your direction, your passion, your dream job, or even that sense of self that makes you feel complete? Do you feel like you're still on a quest to discover who you truly are? And does happiness sometimes slip through your fingers as you search? Maybe there are some aspects of your life that you haven't uncovered yet. Things are still waiting to be discovered. Hey, don't worry. You're not alone. Today's guest, Michelle Scheibner, always aims at bringing clarity, resolution, and drive for change for her clients. However, her personal purpose and identity eluded her too. Today she shares with us how she found herself and made peace with her past. I'm Kate Mason, and welcome to Parenting and Personalities. This is the podcast that connects you to the ones you care about the most. TEDx speaker Michelle Scheibner is addicted to learning. She's read, researched and completed training programs to bring the most current thought leadership to personal brand identity. With postgraduate qualifications in career development, social branding and image management, with her study of narrative coaching, conversational IQ and inherited family trauma, Michelle has a distinctive lens to her work. Working with Michelle is a game changer for her clients, allowing them to stand out in a very crowded marketplace. Michelle is the author of Hush, her newly released memoir unravelling the unintended legacy of family secrets. Hi, Michelle. It's great to have you with us here today.
Hi, Kate, and thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this. I do like any opportunity to talk about my work and my book.
And I can totally understand that. Now, I've read your book, Hush, and look, I was absolutely overwhelmed by the poignancy and the bravery of your story. And look, have a fairly low attention span and I couldn't put it down. And look, I know this sounds really crazy, but I said to my husband while I was reading it, I said, all I want to do is reach through those pages and just give you a big hug because it's so eloquent that honestly the reader really feels your pain.
Oh, thank you, Kate. Thank you for reading it in the way it was intended. I wanted it to be a page turner because, you know, when you write a book like this, unless you're maybe an Olympian or a celebrity or an actor or a politician or an influencer, who wants to read your story,
yes.
right? I mean, I'm just a normal person with a normal story, or so I thought. So I knew that if I wanted the universal points to become clear, I needed people to keep reading. So it needed to have an element of page turning about it. So I did take myself off to learn how to write memoir so that I would, I didn't want any of it to be boring. I wanted people to feel what I was feeling because I didn't feel like people saw me as somebody who was very competent, professional, successful with my business, therefore life must be terrific. And because I'd been very good at hiding that life wasn't terrific. But I wanted people to feel that because I wanted that to resonate for the reader, the person that I wrote it for. Yes.
And it did. And
Thank
it really
you.
did. And look, I learned so much as well because of all of your research too. And of course, being who I am, the extrovert, I've already shared so much of it with everyone. I'm, talking about genetics and talking about, oh my goodness, and I think they're already rolling their eyes because I do get excited about things.
Oh, that's good.
But it is. And believe me, I'll be out there spreading the word about Hush, as it will be definitely unhushed with me. So look, today we were going to start talking about the Identity Activator, a coach, mentor and advisor, which is your role. Now, if you can tell us what that is and then tell us how you got there because you have such an interesting life.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Kate. How did I get to the Identity Activator or how did I get to the work? Because the Identity Activator has come more recently. So how did I get to personal brand strategy?
Yes, and how and even your growth through that.
Oh, yeah, a lot of growth.
Go on.
A lot of growth. I my first career was teaching, secondary teaching. And I was going to say I don't wish that on anybody, but somebody needs to be doing it. I needed to stop when I did. I fell into teaching. I'd wanted to be a fashion designer. I've been accepted into the course, and between my parents and the school, I was talked into going back, completing year 12, and then by the time I did that, I was on the fast train at the school to applying for university, and away it went. I did an arts degree, and, in those days, what did you do with an arts degree? Well, you went into teaching. I found that can I just quickly tell you about my first day in a classroom, because this is hilarious.
Please do.
It was an all-boys school, and it was near the army barracks. And so there were a lot of children, of boys there, who were children that moved around a lot. And it was also an auto electric school. So kids were going there preparing to be apprentices. It was February, it was stinking hot, it was a portable classroom, it was year 9, all boys, and it was a humanities class. Can you imagine?
No.
I walked to the front of the room, and as I was saying my name, a jam sandwich went past my ear and stuck on the board behind me. And that was my introduction to teaching. I thought, oh, this is going to be, I don't know.
Oh, my goodness.
However, I did win that class over. So that's just an aside. What I quickly found out was that people were assuming I was a good teacher because of, my classes seemed to be, if you looked in the window, you'd say, oh, well, they're all a bit engaged. But it was more than that. It was more, there was something about the way I was showing up that I was quickly given responsibility. I was quickly a year 9 pastoral teacher. Then I was a year 9 coordinator. Then I was a year 10 subject coordinator. And this went on very quickly. Within a couple of years, I was assistant head of department. I couldn't work out why that was. On reflection, I see that there was something else at work, which I now describe as personal brand. All in all, by the time I left teaching, I had been encouraged to apply for deputy principal. I had a term in that role, and at that point, I went, this is not for me. This is not my career. This is now not teaching. This is now policing. So I took myself overseas. I worked in a number of commercial environments with no skill, no office skill at all, had never switched on a computer back then. But again, I was being invited back as a temp for different roles and given more responsibility. And it was kind of like, get that Aussie girl back. I was in England. And again, I'm thinking, what is it? This is not what I've trained for. I must be bringing some other set of something to the equation that people are trusting me. I'm learning, we do business with people we like, know and trust. So something else was at work. And again, on reflection, I think it was my personal brand, both how I was showing up physically, how I was articulate. I was very good interpersonally. I could put people at ease. And I guess within that, mind you, I was tall, so I think that helps. I think you take up a bit of space and people see and hear you in a work environment in that way. And so by the time I got back, I went into recruitment, I studied recruitment. I studied everything actually. I did a number of courses, but then I did my postgraduate diploma in career development through the psych faculty at one of our universities here in Melbourne. Introduced to a number of assessments, including MBTI, strong inventory, all of them, values inventories. And I went into a careers role in the school, full-time careers counsellor, work education, started liaising with local industry to get work experience programs up and running. And then, one day somebody called me and said, have you thought about working in outplacement? And that was the start of my commercial and business career. So,
why did that start it?
Because I found I really, doing my grad dip, I think I really discovered that it was adults who needed career management. A careers counsellor in a school tends to be all about prerequisites and university entry, or, I didn't have an opportunity to influence career management and career choice and career development in any way. So I wanted to work with adults. I thought, wow, imagine if I could have a conversation with all these. By the way, it started with working with teachers transitioning out of teaching and running programs for life after teaching at the Council for Adult Education. That was how I started that. And just seeing people make really successful transitions after very fruitful lives as teachers. We don't always need to do the same career for the rest of our lives. And I'd been running the professional development for teachers at the school. So ongoing development had always been part of my toolkit for myself and encouraging others and organising it for others. So to transition into career development was like a no-brainer for me. It was like putting a glove on. It was like going to something so familiar. But still in all, there was this element of personal brand. And at that point, we were just starting to hear about personal brand. And I had, in my mind, thought the only training I could get for personal brand was image management. So I took part in the first certified image management program run in Australia by a fellow called John Michael, he was the image maker of the year globally at that stage, recognised in the US, and he'd put together a program with 7 modules, which included style and colour analysis, the psychology of colour, but it also included communication, inner communication, business etiquette, a whole range of things. And then I started to see these two elements of personal brand and image coming together. And then I started thinking, okay, we have a personal brand, but we also have a career brand. And then after a number of years in career management, I was approached by one of my clients to come across into her company, which was all about leadership development. And it was working with a competency model that had been based on research out of the US called the Lominga Leadership Architect. And now I found myself working with leadership brand. To me, this was kind of a hybrid identity of professionals, if you like. And so I found intuitively, because I am an INFP, I was being called in to work with high potentials, developing leaders, experienced leaders, individual contributors who are trying, the organisation was trying to take them off into leadership, general leadership, people leadership, and they just wanted to be leadership within their own speciality. And again, I was just fascinated with how career choice unfolds and the role of our hybrid brand within that.
So was this your final area of work that you're working in, or so did that's a total? So when you say personal brand, you're talking about branding for workplaces, people's brand of their businesses. Is that correct?
Well, that's kind of how it is now. No, the first step was corporate, and it was helping leaders build influence, helping leaders bring their teams along on the journey, managing the vision and purpose, understanding because we worked with a competency model that actually looked at things like integrity, feedback, self-development as the first stages of leadership, rather than delegation or moving the chairs around on the Titanic. It was very much develop the person, develop their inner leadership so that they can take that into a leadership environment. I was retrenched along the way because our biggest client, global client, decided to take leadership development in-house, and I saw that as an opportunity to build my own coaching practice, which I did 20 years ago this year. And I think I did a lot of change management in corporate, people change, executive career management. I think then, and I was still working with brand, but do you know what? I think it was when I really started thinking about how am I going to distinguish myself as a coach in a world that was suddenly becoming very crowded with coaches, and I wanted a way to talk about this hybrid identity. However, back at the start of COVID, so we're fast forward, I met through LinkedIn a woman doing some amazing work in the US, and she had published a book called You're More Than Your Title. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. I've been saying to people, you're more than your resume, and she's written a book about it. So we had a conversation, and her book was based on her PhD in professional hybrid careers. Love this. I thought, this is so cool. This is really part of what I've been looking for to help me articulate what I do in a brand space. I went through her program, her online program, and in going through the steps that she'd led me through, I was able to work out where I sat in the world of coaching and personal brand coaching that was different. And that was where the identity activator emerged. Because when I think back and when I looked at all the feedback from past clients, it was all around the experience of working with me, the questions I was asking, the themes, the intersections I was helping them draw out. It was activating their capacity to see their identity differently in the workplace. And then now, because I relocated just before COVID, I now work with business owners. I work with a number of coaches and consultants who really want to have something to say that's completely theirs. They don't know how to say it. They're not necessarily right in touch with where it comes from. And so I help them activate that, and I love it.
Wow. So you've found your niche.
I found my niche.
Yes.
I really had.
Yeah. Yeah.
I found my niche. And interestingly, it coincided with the research I was doing for my book.
Right. So with your hybrid identity, when we're talking about that, I know you're using it in the career things, but what is it? And you say there are 3 key perspectives to it.
Yeah.
So can you just tell us about that?
Yeah. So this is that, for me, it's that element of, first of all, we bring so much of ourselves. We have a personal brand. You've probably heard this said before. We have a personal brand whether we like it or not, whether we know it or not. Mm-hmm. Wherever we show up, people have an experience of us. We make a decision within the first 0.7 of a second. Is this person someone I'm going to relate to? Is this someone I can trust? Does this person look like somebody that's, I call it PLU, people like us?
Yep.
Does this person fit into that category? So that's kind of our first experience of somebody. Then we start having a conversation. And if we are intentional about that, we can be asking a number of questions that help us connect. A little different to active listening. We're looking for a point where we can really connect with that person so that we can then hear what's going on for them and they can hear who we are. They have an experience of being in our presence. That is the personal brand that's at that first level. Then we have all the stories that we bring to who we are. You know, I think I said to you when we spoke earlier that so much about brand is about story. For business brand, it's the story of the business. How did the business form? What does it do? Now, if you look on anyone's website, you'll get some branding messaging. Our personal brand is similar. People get a sense of that from the way we talk about ourselves, the stories that we tell. And the stories that we tell come from our history, our memory, our experience. And we do this, we filter through these without kind of knowing what we're doing. So that's another element. And now, so in a sense, that's coming from our memory and our mind. So that's kind of, if you like, part of the Venn diagram, what's going on in our mind and in our memory and the stories we tell. Our experience then leads us to show up in a particular way. And we've formed a number of things in our heart from our environment, the values, the what we learnt, the learnings along the way, our attributes and our competencies. That sits in our heart, and we want to bring that to our work. Then I think there is something else that sits right underneath that, which is it sits on our DNA. You know, from an MBTI perspective, we would say we are born with a preference across those 4 dimensions of the MBTI. That would be one of those elements that we are born with. I propose, based on the research I've been doing and the thinking and my own experience, that it is far deeper than that. So why have I always worked in an occupation, in a career that requires empathy and compassion and enables me to have pretty well honed into personal skills? And I would say that has come forward intergenerationally and then has been moulded by the relationship with my mother. So that whole piece around development theory and attachment between mother and child. We often see people who go into nursing, coaching, counselling, psychology, teaching, that there has been something maybe broken within the bond between themselves and their mother, or their mother and her mother, which we become people pleasers because sometimes as a child, we didn't know what we were going to get from our mother. So we would scan the field, we would scan the environment, and we would determine, how am I going to please this person? How am I going to keep my mother happy? I love my mother. I want her to be happy. And this is not conscious, but this is driving us. And we do find, for example, that we may then end up in occupations that allow us to help heal people. It's the healing that we were looking for ourselves.
That's very, very true and very deep. Like, I get you. I agree. I agree with you. Like, it is very much so. Very interesting. Yeah. So if people are listening, maybe this is yourself, like as we sit and listen to this, there are maybe things. I'm sitting here as a teacher and a coach and thinking, the questions that start coming through your heads, you start thinking about things. while I'm on this, and I don't want to, it's really interesting because you are a questioner. Like, your type of person is a person that questions and looks and seeks answers to things.
Yes.
I'm not. I've never even thought about questioning my identity or who I am. I kind of sit in it, live my life, and maybe go through life with no thought or sensitiveness to people who might be struggling with their identity or who they are. I think I have enough empathy to do that, but I don't feel that I naturally have that depth of emotion. It's there, and I know I use it, but it's really interesting when you listen and go back over past, which is what Hush is all about. But I kind of, today we're going to talk about identity, and I kind of just really interesting to know that I don't know how many people think about their identity like this.
Oh, I don't think they do.
No.
And I think...
Good, because otherwise I was thinking there's something wrong with me.
Oh, no. I don't think people do.
No.
I think, unless there's something really deep going on for them. But I do think when you think about it, we see ourselves, we give ourselves a job title, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
I'm a teacher. I'm a doctor. I'm a podcaster. I'm tech. I'm more hands-on. We have all of these titles that we give ourselves.
Yep.
As soon as we name something, we step into that. Do we necessarily bring all of ourselves to that? No. I mean, some jobs we don't need to, and that's perfectly fine. But if we are going to take a business out into the world, if we're going to birth our business, and I got into this part of my work because people would find me, hear me talk about personal brand, and then they would give me a call and say, look, do you know what? My business is running really well now. I've got a team in place. Everything's going swimmingly. I'm successful. But there's something missing, or there's something more I feel like I really need to do. I don't say to them, oh, you need to think about your identity. What I'm hearing, though, is this is someone who wants to work and bring another perspective of their identity to the world. For example, do we have time for an example? I'm not sure.
We've got just a little bit of time for an example.
Just a very quick example.
Let's hear it. I'd love to. Go
on. A finance broker running a very successful business had done a lot of development, like personal development on a very big stage without mentioning any names. Have formed a view in her mind around the flow of finance. She was working with a lot of women coming out of marriages, needing financial settlements, needing to finance and, refinance mortgages or put kids through school, whatever it was. And my client had this view. She could see that what was going on here wasn't just about the transactional aspect of this person needing money, but that there was the flow of energy in that person's life had been interrupted. And she had this whole view about how she wanted to go out and speak to women about money and energy and how to really attract it into your life in a different way and how to really understand the movement of money and finance globally. Like, fascinating.
Wow. Yeah.
But didn't think she had a voice to do that. Oh, my goodness. Didn't think it was part of her identity to take to a stage and do that. So this is where identity and business meet. And this is where I get to work with people who, because everyone says you've got to have a niche, but how on earth, what does that really mean?
I agree with you.
How do you find that meaningfully,
It's really hard to niche, isn't it? Because what you're giving is something that everybody well, anybody needs, like whoever comes to you. It's not necessarily a niche. They can come from anywhere, can't they?
They can. They can. And you know, they're, look, one of the other, because look, I have to say, Kate, I'm looking at the next program or the next training program I can learn myself, to be honest.
I love learning.
So, so, you know, when we're like that, we have toolkits full of things that enables us enables me to intuitively work with the client, because I can't follow one. Being a P, an FP, I want to be able to be flexible and give the client what they need. I meet the client where they are. I don't try and put them somewhere. And so in one of those programs that I was learning, I did a foundation program of Thought Leaders Business School. And that was really the first serious period where I really started thinking, what is it I know a lot about? I know a lot about identity. There's my identity. How did I get there? And then I started applying that in different ways. And that to me meant it was more meaningful than a niche. Look, if you're going to be a plumber and you only do blocked pipes, I get that niche work. I get that. Depends on your business, of course.
Yeah, and that's right. I agree. I think with people niching is hard, because how can we put somebody in a certain, block of people and say that they don't need your help, So listen, I'm really sorry. We're going to have to wrap this up. But do you know what? I'm talking to you next week, and I'm really excited because next week we're going to share with our listener all about your book, Self-Identity, why it's important, and your journey through self-discovery to get you to who you are today and what you are today. You've been fantastic. I'm just sitting here absorbed, and time is flying. So thank you so much for being on the show today. And I'm wondering, could you just tell people where they can find you?
Absolutely. Probably the easiest is to go to michellescheibner.com. You'll find me on LinkedIn with the LinkedIn /Michelle Scheibner. And you'll find me on the Instagram, _identity_activator.
Fantastic. Thank you so much again for joining us today and being so generous with all of your experiences. And I look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you, Kate. Bye.
So if you're seeking answers about why personal happiness and fulfillment elude you, maybe it's time to examine your family stories. Join me next week when Michelle will be back to share with us the unintended legacy of her family secrets. Thank you for listening to Parenting and Personalities. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you leave a rating and a review that would help others learn about this podcast. If you're interested in discovering more about you and your family's personality types, you'll find my book, Who Is This Monster or Treasure in My House, on Booktopia or Amazon. If you have an episode idea, please send a note to thepersonalitycoach@gmail.com. And many thanks to our producers at Stories and Strategies, and we'll see you next time.